Good evening and welcome to Global Horizon News, broadcasting live to over 180 countries. I'm Mariam Kand, here in our international headquarters, and we are bringing you continuing coverage of what has rapidly become one of the most talked about political developments of the year. Tonight, the story dominating headlines across Africa, the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Captain Ibrahim Traore, the transitional president of Burkina Faso, has reportedly rejected an official invitation from the United States government to attend a high-level diplomatic summit in Washington, D.C. The decision, confirmed this morning by sources within Ouagadougou, has sparked a tidal wave of reactions, ranging from quiet admiration among some African nationalist circles, to confusion among traditional diplomatic allies, to outright frustration in certain Western capitals. And as the sun sets in Burkina Faso, the streets remain alive with discussion, speculation, and analysis about why the 36-year-old leader made this move, what it means for his country, and how it might reshape the global political chessboard. I'm standing here in the heart of the Burkina capital, just outside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where government officials have been unusually tight-lipped. The statement released this morning was brief, almost defiant in tone. Burkina Faso will chart its own course, guided by the will of its people, and will not participate in events that compromise its sovereignty. There was no direct mention of the United States by name, but high-ranking officials, speaking off the record, have confirmed to me that the statement was in reference to a formal invitation from Washington, extended last month, inviting President Traore to a closed-door summit focused on counter-terrorism partnerships and West African stability. This would have been the first time Traore set foot in the United States since assuming power. The event was scheduled for later this month and would have brought together heads of state from several African nations. Yet, according to my sources, the terms of the invitation, including certain pre-meeting conditions, were deemed unacceptable by Traore's administration. Behind me there is a group gathering near the plaza. These are mostly young supporters of Traore's leadership, waving Burkina flags and chanting slogans like "Our destiny is ours" and "No to neocolonial dictates." The mood here is a mix of celebration and determination. Supporters say this is another sign of Burkina Faso's shift toward a foreign policy rooted in self-reliance and regional solidarity, particularly with Mali and Niger, its allies in the Sahel Alliance. However, critics, both at home and abroad, warn that such decisions could further isolate the country and strain relations with major international donors. In the studio, Dr. Leonard Mensah, Senior Fellow in African Geopolitics at the Pan Global Policy Institute, joins me to break down the implications. He says this is a significant moment, an invitation from the US to a sitting African head of state, especially one who came to power via military takeover, is rare. Rejecting it is not simply a logistical decision. It is a statement of foreign policy trajectory. Dr. Mensah points out that Burkina Faso has been pivoting away from traditional Western alliances toward alternative partnerships with Russia, Turkey, and other nations. This rejection, he believes, signals a deepening of that shift. In Washington, the official word from the State Department was restrained. A spokesperson said, "The United States remains committed to engaging with the people of Burkina Faso on shared priorities." But privately, diplomats admit there is frustration, given the effort behind the invitation. The summit was intended to reassert US influence in the Sahel, which is increasingly contested by other global powers. Some lawmakers in Congress have already hinted at re-evaluating aid programs to Burkina Faso, while others argue this is a moment for more, not less, dialogue. In Paris, the reaction was sharper. French officials see this as part of a broader pattern of estrangement since Traore took power, from ordering French troops out to scaling down bilateral projects. One senior French diplomat described the decision as a deliberate snub to the Western framework of engagement. Public opinion in France is split. Some view Traore as a dangerous populist, others as a symbol of African self-determination. Moscow's response was warmly supportive. The Russian Foreign Ministry called the move a sovereign decision by the people of Burkina Faso. Russian media framed it as a diplomatic win in Africa's shifting allegiances. Since 2023, Burkina Faso has strengthened its ties with Moscow through military, trade, and agricultural agreements. For the Kremlin, This rejection of Washington is another sign of the growing influence of alternative partners in the Sahel. In Bamako, Mali, the news was celebrated. Mali's state broadcasters lauded the decision as a stand for African unity. Crowds waved Mali and Burkina flags in solidarity. Government officials hinted that a similar invitation to Mali would have been met with the same refusal. For them, this is part of a coordinated Sahel alliance strategy. In Abuja, Nigeria's reaction was more cautious. Nigerian leaders emphasized the importance of keeping diplomatic channels open, careful not to alienate either Burkina Faso or the United States. But behind closed doors, there is concern that Burkina Faso's stance could widen rifts within ECOWAS, where tensions with Sahel Alliance members are already high. Economist Dr. Aminata Sis notes that while the US is not Burkina Faso's top trade partner, it has been a source of targeted aid and investment. Rejecting this invitation could affect both. Yet, Burkina Faso has been seeking out alternative partners in Asia, the Middle East, and non-traditional African alliances, suggesting a strategy to offset potential losses. On the streets of Ouagadougou, opinion is mixed. A young student says, "The president did the right thing. We cannot depend on those who don't respect our sovereignty." This is a new Africa. A shopkeeper worries about sanctions. "I'm proud, but we don't want more hardship." A teacher sees courage in the move, whether or not it brings immediate benefits. In conclusion, today's rejection is far more than a scheduling matter. It is a geopolitical signal that Burkina Faso intends to define its place in the world on its own terms, even at the risk of straining relations with major powers. In the short term, it may heighten tensions with Washington and its allies. In the long term, it could accelerate a shift toward a multipolar order in Africa. Whether this gamble pays off will depend on the resilience of Burkina Faso's political leadership, economy, and people. Over the past hours, we have taken you across continents, from Ouagadougou to Washington, Paris to Moscow, Bamako to Abuja, to explore the reactions, stakes, and possible futures arising from Captain Ibrahim Traore's decision. The story will continue to develop, and its ripples will be felt far beyond the Sahel. For now, I'm Mariam Kand for Global Horizon News. Thank you for joining us in this extended coverage. Good night.